Evening. At this time, we will reconvene. I'm sorry. Mr. Clayton, are we streaming? Or can we start? Just waiting for the YouTube to get going.
Ralph, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you're good.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. All right. Now here we go. Good evening. We will reconvene the Walton Township Board of Education meeting for August 25th, 2020. I'd like to apologize, start off by apologizing to everyone for us running late. We did have a lot to discuss in executive session. So again, we apologize for keeping everybody waiting. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Hey, Mr. Gartz,
Here.
Mr. Hall,
He has an excused absence.
Mr. Krupa,
I'm here.
Ms. Mangan,
Here.
Mr. Nasser,
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Here.
Ms. Stites,
Here.
Mr. Wondrak, Mr. Wondrak,
Here. Here.
and Mr. Amnesia.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Smythe. Okay, at this time, we will go to, I do not have any report this evening, but we will go to Superintendent's report. Dr. Handerhand, turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. I will begin with an update regarding the start of school. Due to various circumstances, including staff and student accommodations, changes in staff assignments, and the staffing of the K-5 virtual school, personnel leave requests under the Federal Family First Coronavirus Recovery Act, and changing operational logistics, I propose to the Board of Education a change in start date. Under any circumstance, there would be no calendar revision, or it would have been done some time ago. However, given the changing landscape with respect to the aforementioned, we were faced with no alternative but to make these changes at this time. The proposed start date for the 10-month staff is Monday, September 14th, and students to begin on Wednesday, September 16th. This proposed revision accounts for a delay of 6 days. Our current calendar has 3 emergency/snow days built in. I recommend that we repurpose these days. To account for the remaining 3 days, I request February 11th and 12th to be designated school days, and the Friday before Memorial Day to become an early dismissal. If this revised calendar is approved this evening, it will be distributed via email to families and staff tomorrow and will be posted on the district's website. I also wish to provide additional information on the impact of a burst pipe valve at Central School. Today, I received an update that final demolition should be completed by this Friday, August 28th. That said, I will have more information regarding a timeline of completion approximately 1 week from now. Given the uncertainty of the timeline, I would be remiss if I did not share with you a contingency plan. In the event Central School is not ready to reopen for students and staff on September 14th and September 16th, I intend to petition the New Jersey Department of Education for permission to begin the school year virtually for Central School students and teachers. It is my sincere hope that Central School will reopen as scheduled. However, I wish to stress that it is of paramount importance to the Board of Education, me, and members of the staff that all measures will be taken to ensure that this building is safe for students and staff to return. At this point, I would like to introduce Mr. Anthony Scarillo, our board attorney. Mr. Scarillo?
Thank you, Dr. Henry. I would like to take an opportunity just to report on two ongoing issues for the Board of Education. The first of those issues is a report prepared by Dr. Cram with respect to temporary classrooms that were utilized by the district. I was provided with a copy of that report and directed by the Board of Education to interview Dr. Cram over that report. I have now completed my interview with Dr. Cram and have completed my own report with respect to that interview as an addendum to that report, and will be providing that to the Board of Education this week. I'm asking the Board of Education to review that report at its next board meeting and then release it to the public shortly thereafter. The second report is with respect to Dr. Lynch. You met Dr. Lynch at our last board meeting. Dr. Lynch has been provided with information with respect to the South Gym. Dr. Lynch has provided a scope of services for the board to consider with respect to cost for Dr. Lynch to do some work with respect to the South Gym for his testing. And the board will move forward on that. Thank you. That's all I have at this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Scarillo. At this point, I would like to introduce Dr. Gleason. I have asked Dr. Gleason to provide a contemporaneous overview of the district's reopening plan. Dr. Gleason?
Dr. Gleason, you're muted.
Let me try that again. Good evening, everyone. As Dr. Handerhan said, I'd like to provide the board an overview of the district's restart and recovery plan. As a reminder, the plan was submitted to the Executive County Superintendent's Office for approval on August 1st. I believe actually it was July 31st, and has been shared on the district's website as both a Google site and a PDF document in English and Spanish the following week, which was August 8th, I believe. So they can be found at any time. However, we continue to make enhancements to the plan, meaning that there's no significant changes, more detail provided to the essential elements within the plan. So I'll be going over those items with you now. Okay. The Restart and Recovery Plan is a comprehensive document that will provide our school community with the information necessary to open our schools safely, which is most important, and to ensure the school community that we're prepared to accommodate our students' unique needs during this rather unprecedented time during the COVID-19 pandemic. The school schedules in phase 1, which is approximately 4 weeks, unless we are provided any additional information from the governor, is as follows. We have primary school that will be operating on a 5-day per week schedule, which is their regular half-day schedule. Grades K to 5, all students will be attending in phase 1 on an early dismissal schedule with students dismissing at 1:05. Grades 6 through 8 will be on a split enrollment with students divided into red groups or blue groups. They will have 2 days live on campus and 3 days live virtual instruction. Our self-contained special education students will have at least 4 days per week on campus. In grades 9 through 12, similarly, we have split enrollment with the cohorts being called Group 1 or Group 2. They will be 2 days live on campus and 3 days with live virtual instruction. I'm sorry, that's 3 days live virtual instruction as well as asynchronous instruction. And then, yes.
Dr. Gleason, I just want to make sure you don't want to be sharing your screen, correct?
Do you see my screen? I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. Hold on one second. I thought you were seeing it. Okay, let's try
Now
that
it's
again.
being shared. I don't know if you wanted to go back and cover a
There we go.
couple of them.
Okay. I'm going to start right where I was with our school schedule. You can see where primary is leading the list with 5 days a week. They are on their regular 2.5-hour schedule. Grades K to 5 are all students 5 days per week on an early dismissal schedule. They will dismiss at 1:05. Grades 6 through 8, we have split enrollment. As I said, in red and blue groups, they're being divided alphabetically. They are 2 days on campus, and then they have 3 days with live virtual instruction, as well as asynchronous instruction in their core areas. Self-contained special education students will have at least 4 days per week on campus. In grades 9 through 12, similarly, the enrollment is split. The groups will be called Group 1 or Group 2, depending on where you fall in the alphabetical split. They will have 2 days live on campus and 3 days with live virtual instruction, as well as a blend of asynchronous or independent learning in their Google Classroom. Self-contained special education students will also have at least 4 days per week on campus. Just an update on virtual school in grades pre-K through 5. Any parent that has requested virtual school for their child, which is all remote learning, will be a blend of synchronous and asynchronous instruction, similar to the school day for students on campus from 9:05 to 1:05. And students in pre-K through 5 will be assigned to a district class. In grades 6 through 12, students who are participating in virtual school will be integrated with the class on campus via a Zoom or Google Meet for a part of the class time, and they will also spend part of that class time in asynchronous instruction. We currently have 198 students in K through 5 requesting virtual school, and we have 69 students at the intermediate school requesting all virtual, and 122 students at the high school. There are 10 critical areas of operation that were required to be in the plan submitted to the Department of Education. You can see the 10 areas here, and I'm going to go through the salient points of each of those areas that are included in our district reopening plan. The first area is general health and safety. Students and staff will be required to wear face coverings in school. Where this is not possible for medical reasons, alternative PPE will be provided, such as face shields or plexiglass barriers, and we have purchased those alternative PPE for use when necessary. We are asking that face masks have ties or ear loops, and bandana style masks and masks with exhalation valves and or vents will be prohibited as per CDC guidance. Social distancing will be practiced to the maximum extent possible, and where this is not possible or it is impractical due to spacing, other accommodations may include relocating some of our classes or workspaces where there is more room and social distancing can be practiced. Additional accommodations for our staff or students may be afforded through our policy number 2418, which is a section 504 for a 504 plan. You will see that protocols will be put in place to promote increased hand sanitizing for students, as well as more frequent breaks for hand washing. We'll be using some of the Department of Health's marketing materials, posters for the walls, and other visual aids throughout the school and in bathrooms as well. Students and staff are asked to comply with the New Jersey's travel advisory 14-day quarantine if they travel outside of New Jersey, both before and after the start of school. The second critical area of operation addresses classrooms, testing, and therapy rooms. Visitors will only be permitted on campus for essential purposes only and scheduled by appointment. Each visitor must complete a health screening. They will have their temperature checked, and they will be required to wear a mask. We are, in looking at all of our buildings, we will be minimizing the use of shared objects, looking at cleaning between use where necessary. We are removing and eliminating non-educational materials and resources during this time so that we can create as much clean space as possible. And as I said, limit the use of any shared objects. We are working to create individual student kits of educational materials and resources in particularly in special areas or in some of the early elementary grades where students would normally be sharing manipulatives, crayons, any other types of shareable materials. We are now creating individual student baggies so that students will have a dedicated supply of their own resources. And then increasing digital resources. So we are again minimizing the use of shared objects. Some of those digital resources will be increasing students' access and teachers' access to digital libraries. As you know, in the past, we've been moving more and more to a reading workshop model where we've each year begun to expand classroom libraries. Now, during this time in the pandemic, we'll be increasing the number of digital books that students and teachers have so that we're not sharing those books. All occupied spaces in our school buildings, which include but are not limited to just classrooms, testing, and therapy rooms, will have code compliant ventilation, which must include a fresh air component. Hand sanitizers are located at the entrance of all of the buildings. They're in all the instructional and common spaces, and they're equipped with a hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. We are asking students to use hand sanitizer upon entry to the school and where possible to use hand sanitizer between classes as well. Continuing with classroom testing and therapy rooms, teachers will, as I mentioned, be provided instructional resources and visual aids that promote protocols for hygiene, hand sanitizing, and hand washing. We have removed and are in the midst of removing furniture and equipment that was used prior for group instruction and other small group activities. Unfortunately, those types of educational groupings won't be possible during this phase of the pandemic. And it allows for greater room in the classrooms for social distancing. Larger rooms such as our gymnasiums, cafeterias, media centers, and auditoriums may be used as classrooms to allow for social distancing if we need those spaces. At the elementary level, we will have all special area teachers push into the classroom so that students will truly be in a self-contained homeroom throughout the day and minimize student movement throughout the building. And at grades 6 through 12, that movement will be minimized, not so much in a self-contained classroom. That's not feasible at the secondary level, but that is provided through the split AB model or the split enrollment model. Item number 3 is transportation. All students and staff will be required to wear face coverings on the buses. Social distancing will be practiced to the maximum extent possible. Our transportation waiver that we ask parents to complete in Genesis indicates a significant decrease in the number of students who will be riding the bus, and as upwards of more than 40%. So we are anticipating that we will have a decreased number of students who typically ride the bus. All vehicles that will be used for transporting students will have high touch points disinfected between all runs. Some of those touch points include, but aren't limited to, the handrails, poles, the seat tops, backs, and windows. Item number 4 addresses student flow, the entry and exit of students, and common areas. Each building will establish both bus and parent drop-off points and pickup points to minimize student contact at entry and at dismissal. There will be multiple points at each building. So parents may see some changes in the way arrival and dismissal had happened before. And that will be included in each of the building plans. A daily digital health questionnaire must be completed by all students and staff prior to school. Our school community can expect to see more information coming regarding our new daily health questionnaire. It is an application that will be pushed out from the district to parents via text and email. And there will be reminders that parents will receive up until the time that students come into school. And that must be completed on a daily basis. It's going to be a very brief health questionnaire, but it does ask the essential questions provided by the CDC. Temperature checks for students and staff and visitors will be conducted upon entry. We have digital temperature scanners at both intermediate school and at the high school. We have purchased multiple scanners at each of the entry points. And at the elementary level, temperatures will be taken in student homerooms by the staff and using contact-free thermometers and scanners. Social distancing visual indicators would place throughout all of the hallways, establishing the direction of traffic and encouraging 6 feet of distance from others at all times. And in some cases where one-way directional passing is possible, that will be established by the principals in the hallways. Number 5 addresses screening, PPE, and the district's response to students and staff presenting symptoms of COVID-19. As I mentioned, the daily digital health questionnaire must be completed by students and staff. Temperature checks will be conducted. All staff will be trained in identifying COVID-19 symptoms so that they can both self-monitor and monitor students throughout the school day. Any student or staff member who exhibits symptoms will be directed to the nurse for further evaluation. If a student has concerning symptoms, they may be directed to an isolation room and remain in isolation with supervision by an adult. And we are reminding parents that students must be picked up by a parent or an approved emergency contact within 30 minutes of notification. All of our buildings have established an isolation room for this purpose, and students would be required to provide a doctor's note before returning to school. Again, we're asking parents to please review and update your child's emergency contact info and health records, and to check those emergency contacts to make sure that they are in close proximity to the school should they need to help a parent and pick up their child. If a staff member exhibits symptoms of COVID-19, they must leave campus immediately and also provide a doctor's note before returning to work. Much of our response to students and staff is guided by the Freehold Area Health Department. We have been working with our local health department since prior to school closure in March. We will be required to immediately notify the Freehold Area Health Department if any student, staff member, or visitor has tested positive for COVID-19. And likewise, if we are notified that a staff member or a student has a confirmed case of COVID-19, we will also be directed by the Freehold Area Department of Health as to the notification to specifically to which members of the school community and the quarantine process that would be in place, and contact tracing would begin, which is another slide on here. The district, again, we have to collaborate with our Freehold Area Health Department. Our school nurses will be involved in developing contact tracing policies and procedures. But essentially, if we have a confirmed case, or what is also called a probable case, where the Department of Health is waiting for further testing, they will provide the district with the specific protocol for notification and containment at that point. And then information would be provided to the larger school community with regard to the procedures and the importance of contact tracing. Number 7 addresses facilities cleaning practices. In addition to our regular daily cleaning and sanitizing, the district established a daily high contact surface sanitizing procedure. We actually began this stepped up process before school closure when we were really at the brink of this pandemic back in the end of February, early March. Some of those daily high contact areas that are being sanitized and disinfected include cafeteria tables, computer keyboards, desktops, doorknobs, door pulls. Our drinking fountain bubblers have been, they're now non-operational, and we are only using the filling stations. Elevator buttons, faucet knobs, fitness equipment, flush valves, handrails, hand towel dispenser levers, toilet stall doors and latches, light switches, telephone handsets, copy machines, and these are just some of the high contact areas. The district has purchased electrostatic spray wands for every school, and they can disinfect and sanitize large areas and with much more efficiency. So we have, I believe, 2 spray wands at every building now. Some of the primary sanitizing and disinfecting products that we are using are HDOX cleaner and disinfectant, aseptic disinfectant, RX75, and Green Clean chlorinated disinfectant tablets. As I mentioned, the water fountains will only be operational as filling stations for students and staff now until we move further into a more positive situation with health data. The district will be making available to all teachers and staff a bottle of sanitizing spray and paper towels for additionally cleaning high-touch areas within their classroom. If you have a classroom with computer keyboards, headphones, calculators, and other essential items in a teacher's classroom. And the teachers will also wipe down the desktop between classes in those grade bands where class passing is happening. And that's primarily at the secondary level. Number 8 is meals. And during phase 1 of our district reopening plan, we will not include a lunch period. So all students will follow the early dismissal schedule that has already been established, which does not include a lunch period. I will talk to you in a few minutes about the grab and go lunches that we are making available. Number 9 addresses recess and physical education. Our recess during phase 1 will not involve the use of playground apparatus. Groups will be staggered outdoors and socially distanced. Outside mask breaks can be given when all students or staff are appropriately socially distanced. And we are encouraging all of our staff to use, especially the September weather and October weather, to bring classes outdoors as often as possible, not just for physical education, but for other class lessons, and to, again, take advantage of what is typically good seasonal weather. Phys ed classes will be held outdoors to the maximum extent possible, and we will be limiting use of any shared equipment between students. Locker rooms will be closed during phase 1, and students will be encouraged to wear comfortable clothing and footwear so that they are ready to participate in PE classes without needing to change. Number 10 is extracurricular activities and use of facilities outside of school hours. All extracurricular activities must comply with our applicable social distancing requirements and hygiene protocol. Facility use requests from external organizations are not being granted during phase 1. However, thereafter, should that be lifted, the community organizations that are granted building use or facility use must follow our district guidance on health and safety protocols at that time. In addition to those 10 areas that were required to be in the plan, districts were asked to consider 6 additional impact areas for consideration, and you can see those 6 areas here. With regard to social emotional learning and school culture and climate, we are well aware that this pandemic has impacted our entire school community, not just academically in the educational arena, but more importantly, with regard to mental health and wellness. So we are addressing mental health and wellness and the social emotional learning of our student through some initial surveys of both staff and students, providing teachers with check-in protocols to check in on their students on a regular basis, and counseling services. We will have online or digital counseling, virtual counseling, and face-to-face counseling by our appropriate school personnel. Our opening in service includes a self-care for educators workshop with follow-up group meetings on our district reopening day for staff in service. And we have a parent university plan with Dr. Greco, who is a neuropsychologist. And the topic of his workshop will be talking to students about returning to school. The workshop will be held via Zoom, and it's appropriate for students, staff, and teachers. So more information will be coming regarding Dr. Greco's workshop. We had a date planned, but Dr. Greco had to reschedule. So we'll be providing more information there. The second area for consideration is multi-tiered systems of support. Well, the district's been in a very strong position with regard to this item. We established a response to intervention framework 3 years ago, which begins with an early identification of students who may be struggling academically, behaviorally, or both, and putting in a system of interventions at increasing levels of intensity to help remediate and improve their performance. So we'll be really looking at the baseline assessments to provide starting points for our teachers regarding student readiness. It's really important to see how our students are doing socially, emotionally, but also to see where they are with regard to their starting points in a grade level after school closure and a shift in what the instructional model looked like. And then we are also working on benchmark assessments that will be administered intermittently through the year to gauge progress and to ensure that students are making progress. Number 3 is technology, and this is a critical component of the district reopening plan. The district will supplement gaps in student access to devices and internet connectivity. Parents may have recently received a phone survey that came out. It's a needs assessment to establish if students are without technology or connectivity. And we will provide one-to-one device capacity and hotspots for both students and staff where necessary. Surveys will go out to our staff to ensure that they have working technology and also to address their connectivity at home. All students will be assigned a district device when we come back to school. And if we are required to transition to a fully remote environment, students would then take home their assigned device and charger. And this primarily is a shift in our elementary schools. We had already been at a one-to-one take home in our high school prior to last spring. We were in a one-to-one at the intermediate school, carry in school, and that I believe will shift to a one-to-one take home. But this will be a big shift for our elementary students, and we will start with keeping all of the district devices in district in their classroom, but be prepared to send them home with their assigned device if we have to shift to fully remote. Number 4 is wraparound supports, and this addresses the types of supports that the district is putting in place above that RTI framework that I discussed with you. This really looks deeply at the academic, behavioral, and the social emotional needs of students, and oftentimes coordinating support services with outside providers. And the district is required to and prepared to include any additional supports that may be related to the mental health or the primary health and dental care of our students. Food service and distribution, number 5. As I mentioned, during phase 1, the district will not include a lunch period in the academic schedule, but the district will make available to all students grab-and-go lunches, and plans are being made for how those lunches will be distributed to students, including students who are going to be in virtual school or on the virtual only days at the secondary level. The last item for consideration is the district's response to quality childcare. RAP is a district enterprise program that has been in place for several years in the district. RAP will offer childcare services to elementary students as it has done in the past from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. And then in the afternoon, services will be expanded to begin at 1:05 at early dismissal through 6:15. There will be some changes in the RAP program with regard to parents completing that daily digital health screener. They have to complete that screener before arrival at RAP, and children's temperatures will be taken upon entry in both the AM program and for students who are coming into the afternoon program. We've also done some work in communicating with some area providers about additional childcare options that may be available in the community, and we will provide those resources to parents as we receive them. Each of the building principals and administrative teams have been working on their building plan. They took the 15 areas that I shared with you this evening, and they looked through the lens of how does this look in our building? And they've put together presentations for the school community. Those presentations include visuals of classrooms, so you can see what classrooms look like with the 6 feet of space for students, and other areas of the school that will be of interest to parents and information pertinent to each child's building. Those will be on the website on Friday this week. And I think that parents will be pleased with the information that they'll see that is specific to each building in the district. That is all I have for you.
Thank you, Dr. Gleason.
You're welcome.
Could I ask a question, please, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Krupa.
Thank you. What were the numbers again at the various grade level, the elementary, middle, and high school that were opting for virtual school? I think I heard 69.
Sure. We have 198 students at the elementary level. We have 69 students at intermediate school and 122 students at the high school.
Okay, and then the virtual programs you've also have posted up on the webpage, and reading that, some of the groups of students at the secondary level, I'm going to stay with them, they're going to be paired with live classes. So that teacher will be teaching, say on Blue Day, kids that are both live there in the room, and then kids that are home. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Krupa. One of the challenges that we were looking at the secondary level, as you can imagine, particularly at the high school level, where the range of courses is pretty comprehensive, and working in honors and AP, trying to provide an equitable schedule for virtual school students comparable to what they would have had if they had selected on campus. That was really proving to be very challenging. We looked at some outside providers, but that's not ideal. Much like parents, and I know the Board of Ed and our administrative team would have preferred that to be with our district teachers. So we were very pleased to come up with a protocol that will work to allow our secondary students that are in virtual school at home to be a part of the classroom via Zoom or Google Meet, depending on the teacher's platform that they prefer. And they will be in for approximately 20 to 25 minutes of the beginning of each of their classes each day for direct instruction with the teacher. When direct instruction has been completed by the teacher, those students who are in virtual school will log off, and they have work for them in the Google Classroom that they would then be completing. So I think it's certainly more personal than it would have been if they had to take a class through Apex or Eduseer, where that is completely asynchronous work. There's no teacher interaction. no student interaction, where now the student in, 8 classes will have 8 live mini lessons in each of their classes.
That's good to know, because I was under the impression that we did talk about having to do that with the outside providers, but that makes sense to me that we're going to have more contact with our own teachers, and the courses that you mentioned, it solves a lot of problems. So how might that look then for like an art class, or not the core areas that they call social studies, math, English, and science? How
So
might that look?
in some of those cases, the teachers have already begun working on what we're calling make and take bags, where they will provide supplies for students that they will have at home so that they can participate in a more authentic way. So, this is going to take some flexibility and some work and some new learning about how to do things for our teachers and our students, but we're committed to providing as comparable a class as possible for our students that have elected for the virtual environment. We were able to do that at the secondary level because the developmental age of students in secondary lends itself to more independent practice, where they can shift from class to class and log on and log off with a variety of teachers through the day. Where at the elementary level, they need a single teacher to really guide them through, and that teacher needs to be really focused just on that virtual class, especially with our youngest elementary students. So that's the rationale behind assigning a district level elementary rather than using that technology. It would be, I don't think, really in the best interest of students or teachers to try to conduct a Zoom meeting on the side of your class with, a classroom full of second graders.
Right. So what you're saying, and not that he's not speaking English, but what you're saying is that across the district there might be one second grade teacher that's only teaching the virtual students.
That's correct, Mr.
Right.
Cooper.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Megan?
Okay, so I have a few questions. So the first two have to do with outdoor space use for teachers, and I definitely think we should be taking advantage of the weather. Maybe we could elaborate for parents in regards to security measures that would be taken in each one of the schools, that if the class was outside, what would that look like for the parents, and as well as, in regards to pest management, do we spray the fields for ticks and whatnot? So that way we're being a little bit more proactive now that the students aren't going to be on playground equipment. They'll be most likely in the grass areas, just so we stay proactive.
Thank you. And we may see some of that information in the building plans with regard to some of the protocols that will be in place. And I would imagine that the areas, while the students are not using playground equipment at the elementary level, they're using still the same familiar space that they would in terms of the recess areas in the playground areas.
Okay. And then the other question in regards to snacks, and a lot of parents may be concerned about allergies and whatnot. I think it's important that we address that to assure for our students or even staff members that we're conscious of the allergy awareness, that if what's going to be happening with snacks, or because it's a long duration for the younger students to go throughout the day without eating.
Absolutely. And we've had that discussion with the administrative team so that snacks will be allowed. And to be able to do that we have to make sure that we have students outside if possible, or in these larger areas where they can be socially distanced. So the goal is, especially for this first 4 weeks, to get students outside as much as possible. And we do know it's a long day. The building plans with the principals will give more specifics around how they're going to manage that snack time, and also concerns around allergies, because all of that are still, things that we have to address even pre-COVID.
Mr. Nazar?
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you everybody for all the work. Trust me, I know what it's like putting this plan together, and it's a lot of work. I did have a question. I'm trying to understand the temperature screening. In the high school and the intermediate level, they have it at entry. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Okay, and then in K through 5, it's in the classroom after in their homerooms.
Correct.
So
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm just wondering why the difference, why the deviation with that.
So the temperature scanners require students to walk up. If I don't know if you've seen some of these temperature scanners, the ones that we've selected require the student to walk up and quickly sort of place themselves in the correct proximity to the scanner silhouette. They are pretty quick, but they do take a few seconds to get organized. At the same time, students are going to have to provide that screener app at the secondary level. That'll probably be a cell phone at the secondary level at the high school. So there's a couple of things that have to happen for us to sort of ensure that we've collected evidence of a daily screening. The temperatures are not required. It's an either or, but because we believe that that additional layer of health and safety screening is what's best for students and staff, we are doing both. At the elementary level, again, with the developmental age of students, trying to manage both of those items, which would be standing in front of a scanner and lining their face up to the scanner, as well as someone trying to type their name into the screener app because they would not have a phone to show their green check mark, that could really delay getting kids into school. So kids will have masks, students will have masks on. We want to get them to their classrooms as quickly as possible and in a socially distanced environment where the teacher can quickly, and as you probably know, those contact-free thermometer scanners are pretty quick. It'll be more efficient for our younger students to sort of be part of that process rather than the entry that we're planning for the older students.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Just a question at the high school for those apps and different things like that. Are we going to have the kids fill that information out, or are the parents going to have to fill that information out? And I know, are they going to be on like a Google Doc? I know there's a few different ways that it can be tracked. So maybe, and that I imagine is going to take some, getting used to for parents. So if we have any information that we can share in that regard.
Mr. Sanfilippo, there'll be more information coming out, but we really worked hard to try to identify what was the most efficient screener. We could have attempted to try to collect this data with a Google form, which would require parents to go in every day and remember to go into a Google form and complete that form. I think we all know, as busy as our lives get, and when you have children getting ready for school in the morning, it will be easy to miss doing that form every day. And on the other end of that, how to manage that data that is being collected or that is missing could be a huge undertaking for the administrative team every morning when kids are coming into school. So we knew what our needs were, and we looked at a variety of products before deciding upon this app, which is called Ruvna, R-U-V-N-A. There are a couple like it. This app has been around. It's not new. It was used for school safety before. So they have some, some consistency with their product. It's now just being a different use. And as I mentioned, we set up the groups that get the notification in the morning. So parents will get the notification via text, or if they do not have a cell phone, then they would get an email. There's a variety of ways, but the information is pushed out from the district, and beginning an hour before a student's arrival time, a reminder will continue to go out to the parent on their phone via text. And when the parent taps that text message, it opens up the screener on their phone, and they can tap the answers to those questions right on their phone, and it's submitted back to the district in real time. So at any time, the district can see on a dashboard who's missing and which students broken down by homerooms. So it's a much more, I think, usable, I don't want to say friendly because it's a lot of work, but I think it's a bit more friendly in terms of getting that data and knowing who's completed it. But to answer your first question, it will be the parents who complete the screener, but the app has the ability for a parent to complete the screener quickly and then share that with their child if their child is going to use a cell phone to show that they are clear for the day. So if Mr. Sanfilippo, you complete that for your child, you text that clearance, it's a green check and a QR code, and your child at the secondary level would use his or her cell phone if you choose. If they don't have a cell phone, there will be a check-in person at the door at each entryway, and the dashboard will be up on a device at the entry, and whoever is the staff member monitoring that enters in the last three initials of the last three letters of the student's last name, and it comes up if they've completed the health screener. So it has a pretty, I think, a strong system to get us the data we need in as quick of time as possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Adam?
Yeah, just a quick follow-up question. I'm assuming every teacher will then have a temp gun in the K-5 rooms. Will they have the ability to take multiple temperatures during the day if they need to, or if a kid becomes symptomatic, will they then be sent to the nurse for an evaluation? Like who makes that call?
So let me make sure I understand your question. When you say, will they be able to take temperatures at other times during the day, that thermometer will remain in the classroom with that teacher. And part of their training the first week of school will be facilitated by our Safe Schools training. It's a module on identifying the symptoms of COVID-19. Our head nurses have been really an important part of our reopening plan. They've been on our Restart and Recovery Steering Committee, and they've really helped guide the protocol for how this will happen. So if a teacher identifies a student who is showing evidence of one of those symptoms, they could certainly take a temperature again, and they would send that child to the nurse for evaluation. And then ultimately it's the nurse who makes that determination if the child needs to go home to be seen by a medical professional.
Dr. Gleason, just out of curiosity, for all the total students doing virtual, how many individual students that aren't part of a family, do you have those numbers?
When you say individual students that aren't part of the family?
I'm sure a lot of these students have brothers or sisters that are also doing virtual. Do you have like the independent number of, how many just families you're talking about total?
Ultimately, we can drill down to that information. We have that information by student, by school. The form is in Genesis, which is great, so we can link it to siblings. We have instances where a family may be choosing virtual for one student and not for another.
Okay.
So we do have that information because we chose to, after those initial surveys, to sort of get some preliminary data, we then moved to housing those forms in Genesis so we could run a user flag and see exactly who's who.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else, any other questions? Oh, seeing none, okay. Next, Dr. Handerhan, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just that many people, the building leaders, principals, district leaders, directors, pandemic response team members, the public, many people have provided information, and the information that was provided that came from multiple inputs were brought back to the pandemic response team and to the Restart and the Restart committee at the district level. So there was a tremendous amount of information that was sifted through, and we listened to a lot of feedback from our families, from our teachers. We've received some feedback from students, certainly the older students. So these plans have been refined, and I look forward to the release of the building plans so that families, as Dr. Gleason said, can really get a sense of, what does everyone's day-to-day look like. The visual imagery that the families and certainly the parents and the students will be able to view. It's going to make this a little more real, and I look forward to that. And I'm certain that there will be, they will be received favorably. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Board of Education updates. I do not have anything. Does anybody have anything in that regard?
It's going to be a county meeting. I know it got postponed the last time. That's going to take place on August 31st, so I'll be attending that. And then also, at some point, this board needs to look at the blast that came from NJSBA, and I believe the other leadership groups, although I didn't see it, they referenced it in the NJSBA blast today about some rules that the Senate is messing with to do with hiring practices for extracurricular coach activities. And everybody got it in their mailbox. Probably should all look at it, not meaning board members, when we have a free minute.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa. Okay, this time we will open up public comment. Public comment's limited to 5 minutes, and it is on agenda items that the board will be taking action on this evening. So. Ms. Cross?
I'm surprised. I'm the first one. I mean, I just put my hand up not too long ago, so just in case somebody else put it up sooner. I have to say, I don't understand why any of this wasn't posted on Friday. I mean, and why wouldn't you have it on the agenda that Lisa Gleason was going over this presentation and send it out so parents could listen in? I mean, this just doesn't make any sense, Mr. Adonisio. As the president, this should have been included on Friday. It should have been posted. And you did have that revised calendar up there. Because I saw it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you knew you were going to do this. It's just that the staff is starting on the 14th, and maybe they should be starting the Thursday and Friday before. I mean, you can't keep delaying this when you know you're going to delay it. Just let the people know. Doesn't make any sense. You keep talking about being transparent and accountable, and you're nowhere near it. I'd like to know what my son's day is going to look like in the high school. I think I wrote in over 3 weeks ago, and I haven't gotten a reply. So I'm extremely disappointed in what's happening in the high school. I have no idea. All I know is there's mercury in the high school, and the district has not sent a letter out to the parents. So if somebody could get back to me on what my son's day would look like if he's attending Wall High School, I would appreciate it. I have to say, I'm extremely concerned. You know, you're working on agenda items, 150 pages of stuff that people don't care about right now. Focus on getting the schools opened. To start the meeting at 8:10 p.m. when you're supposed to start at 7:30, like your time is more important than our time. I mean, it's ridiculous. Go back in executive session and talk about what you needed to talk about then. You shouldn't have been talking about a delayed opening in executive session. Those two things have nothing to do with each other. The mercury in the high school, I just want to mention, you know, people have known about this for years. So I'm not sure why this is all of a sudden popping up here. But in reading articles, one New Jersey teacher said she has cancer from it. These are gym floors that were installed in the 1980s through the 1990s, not in 2011. So this was a gym floor that was supposed to be in that lease agreement with the used moldy Central School trailers that you bought. So something doesn't seem right, and I'm glad Mr. Scariello is taking the lead on this, because something's not right and why we have it. The dangers of mercury are to the nervous system, digestive system, and immune systems, as well as the lungs and kidneys, and may be fatal. I mean, every other school, they send something out. When all these articles I'm reading, Parsippany, everybody sent something out except Wall Township. Something's not right as usual. They have to be replaced. I mean, this is ridiculous that you've had these reports for months and you still haven't sent them out. So I think I wrote Adam, then I wrote Joe Hall, then I wrote Ralph, then I wrote Christine today. Everybody's got an excuse. I'm sick of it. What else? Mr. Cram's report. Mr. Scariello, can you just let us know that report that Mr. Cram gave shouldn't be changed before it's released to the public? If you want to add an extra and have questions, that's great. But I want to see the report in its original form, because I think people should have made calls to various state agencies by now. So this is so disturbing to me. I could barely even speak about it. So, I look forward to you getting that report to us, because I am sick over it. The mercury in the gym floor was higher than the recommended level. It starts off higher than the recommended level, 8 times higher. So, I mean, how I didn't even take that survey. I don't even know if I could have my son step foot in that building, because no matter what you're given, there's always something hiding it. So right now, to me, it's not safe to send them in, because I don't have those mercury reports, and they should be posted and send something out. We're looking at other options, and the district should pay for students that now want to look elsewhere, because
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is done. And for the record, the plan has been on the website since July 31st. You're completely wrong about the date of the high school gym floor, and no excuses on the mercury. There was a discussion about it at the last meeting.
Mr. President, there's mic issues. Just want to let you know.
Thank you. Ms. Marr?
Mr. Addonizio, I believe I should be talking at the second session because they're not agenda items.
Oh, okay. We will come back to you then. Thank you. Mrs. Oppergard?
Hi, Mr. Addonizio. First of all, Christine Oppergard, WTEA Health and Safety Chairperson. I have to respond to Mrs. Cross, and this was not what was in my notes. Nothing has been hidden about the mercury. Mr. Morello immediately notified WTA and the Health and Safety Committee upon the mercury being found in the high school gym. It's not something that we've known about for years. They just did the testing this year. And we are working together with the Board of Education, and we continue to work with NJWEC, and we look forward to working with Dr. Lynch as well. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you. But I'd like to thank you for the update on Central School and the flood issue, Dr. Handerhan. As you know, the WTA Health and Safety Committee was formed after the trailer fiasco last year. We've been working in cooperation and respect with Board of Education and Administration on all issues of health and safety for our members and ultimately for our students. This afternoon, I requested a walkthrough of the areas of concern, knowing that demolition is not going to be completed until this Friday and the district's not going to know what the scope of repair is very concerning to me. Leads us to believe that the damage may be more severe than we were first led to believe. I do ask that if the whole F&F committee has not seen the affected areas, that you do so as soon as possible. We look forward to continued transparency and open discussions on major situations such as this flood and the problems at Central School. Together, we have moved past years of cover-ups and band-aids, and please, let's not go backwards. If possible, that we could get in there as a small committee of WTA, we would really appreciate that, just to have eyes on it so we know we're all on the same page. Thank you, Mr. Addonizio.
Thank you, Mrs. Oppergard. And we will not be doing a Band-Aid by any stretch of the imagination. Dr. Abraham, really quick, could you give the explanation as to why we don't know the scope of the work? You're on mute.
And you're having mic issues still.
So is this with respect to why we don't know the scope of the project?
Yes.
Okay, I only heard pieces of it, so I'm sorry.
Sorry.
The scope of the project, we're working with the insurance company. We're working with the company, and it's broken into stages. Right now, we're working with the demolition stage. There was a cleanup and demolition stage. We have met, in fact, today with other members of this district, we met with the foreman to get an update on the project itself. And that's when I shared the update where the demolition is expected this Friday. It is this afternoon that I received this information. What happens next is the demolition foreman essentially hands the project over to another group within the team to begin working on the reconstruction end. So he shared with us, we of course wanted to get information on, in your experience, how long does this type of thing take? And he told us that it really is the person that is taking over the next stage needs to be in the position for about a week so that a true scope of the project can be identified and shared with us and shared with the insurance company. So it's working in different legs. Honestly, I really wanted that information this afternoon. I wanted the full scope of the project, but at this point, I am not able to get this full scope of the project. So within a week, I look forward to hearing from the next stage's foreman to get a sense of the scope of the project. If this was a district project where it wasn't going through insurances, we would have much more direct say and direct access. So because we're going through, this is an insurance claim, we are beholden to their timelines. So that is where we are, and that is why the scope of the project is not as clear, certainly as I would want. Because we're under the umbrella of the insurance right now, we are beholden to their management of the project. So thank you. Couldn't get that word out.
Yeah, it's certainly, we as a district are in a very frustrating position with this because it's different than if we initiated the project, we would have the timelines and everything. So unfortunately, that's where we are.
Mr. Anizio?
Yes, Mr. Gartz.
I apologize for butting in. I just wanted to follow up with what you and Dr. Hanrahan said, and to respond to Ms. Oppergard, I think the FNF committee getting over to that site is important, and we'll take that under advisement to try to do that. And to reiterate, we are a little bit hand-tied with the insurance company, but we are, as I said last week, committed to clear and consistent communication about next steps. And we will do so as we have the information to share. I can assure you as the chair of the FNF committee. The other thing I just wanted to say, just to clarify some information about the Mercury. That contract was approved in 2011. And as many people know, mercury was, forbidden many years before that. And so the shock of the engineers to find any levels of mercury in a floor that was put in 2011 was pretty apparent. And that report from Partner Engineering was dated May 28th on delivery to the Board of Education. And on May 29th, we were all made aware of the original circumstances via email. And then on June 4th, we had an FNF committee meeting about it and have been outspoken about the issue and clear and consistent with our communication. As Ms. Oppergard said, I appreciate her support of that. And we will continue to be supportive of that. I would like to just own up to the fact that as the chair of the FNF committee, the meeting on June 4th I have failed in my responsibilities as the chair to submit minutes for that meeting, and I take full responsibility for that. But on June 4th, the meeting was held, and on June 5th, not long after that, Dr. Cram gave a full first report to the community, and we have consistently done so. And there's no information that's been hidden. And I just want to make that clear. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gartz. Okay. Back to- Good evening, Jamie.
Hi, I have a question for the K through 5. If we see the Zoom, the video that you're going to show us of what the school looks like, and then we get more details from the principals of each school, if we're uncomfortable with what we see or what's going to happen, can we decide to go virtual before school starts? Or do we have to submit the paperwork and wait the 2 weeks and send them even if we're uncomfortable?
Okay. Jamie, could you just give your full name for the record, please?
Jamie Franco.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Gleason, with that report, or Dr. Handerhan, just really quick, is that something that parents can do after they see the building plan?
I can address this on the FAQ tomorrow, and in particular, when a student is signed up for in-person instruction, it is a faster timeline to return back to the or to go to enroll in a virtual program. The longer timeline is when a student is all virtual and is looking to return to the in-person.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hello, sorry about that.
That's okay, no problem. It's Samantha Bassett. Obviously, a key component of our reopening plan is having adequate staff. Other districts have similarly communicated to their parents that staffing issues have necessitated changes to their reopening plans. So if you could share, what does our staffing situation look like today? And is it sufficient to staff the models that you've decided to open with on September 8th or 16th, whichever date is decided? What percentage of staff is requesting accommodations or leave? And how will staffing needs impact the educational program that the district is able to provide? For example, will substitutes, whether daily substitutes or longer term substitutes, be teaching in person or virtual classes to address any shortages instead of Wall Township Public School teachers? And if you could share when you would have these numbers finalized and any impact they might have going forward on our plans with families. And then turning to Central School, Mr. Smythe, at last week's meeting, you said that you hope to have the results from asbestos and other testing by the end of last week. So if you have those results, are you able to share them and update parents? And if there's mold present, will the district staff be remediating that, or will an outside company be coming in? How much of the building and our classrooms were affected at Central? And I know Dr. Handerhan, you said you'll know more about the scope of the work in a week. However, if the work cannot be completed by the start of school, when will students and staff know that so that everyone can be prepared? Teachers, obviously, to create virtual lesson plans instead of in person, and also for families that might need to change their childcare arrangements to have notice to do that. And lastly, I absolutely agree with Mrs. Opegard. I'm the parent representative on the WTEA Health and Safety Committee. And I would also think it's a good idea for the members of the F&F committee and any other board members that want to go inside Central and view the damage and the current condition of the school for themselves as well. Thank you.
Thank you. You had quite a few questions, and I saw Dr. Gleason and Dr. Handerhan jotting things down, so that's probably gonna be something that they're gonna have to get back to you on, just to let you know. And in regards to the really quick, the reports, I know all the reports are not in because we have not received them yet, and we're hoping because there was a little bit of a backlog, I believe, in testing. We should get those hopefully one day next week. or I'm sorry, hopefully this week. Okay. Come on. Trying to unmute and it is not unmuting.
Hello?
Mrs. Adam, how are you?
Hi, Lisa Adam, Wall Township. I just had a question with something that Dr. Gleason touched on before. When you spoke about teachers teaching a lesson for 15 to 20 minutes to the children at home or the students at home, and then clicking off to continue, I wasn't sure if that was just for the solely virtual at home students or if that was for anyone doing synchronous learning. And my question there is, do they have to click off or can they continue to view what goes on in the classroom so that maybe if other students ask a question, they can learn from the conversation that keeps going in the room to maybe pick up on that back and forth learning, which is sometimes really essential in the classroom?
Was that everything?
That was it.
All right, thank you. Maybe that's something Dr. Handerhan or Dr. Gleason will be able to give an answer for at some point, possibly this evening. All right. Logan Sai, I am, you have an older version of Zoom and I have to move you to panelist. And where'd you go? Up. Oh, hold on one second. You're on mute. I'm trying to unmute you. I'm sorry. It takes a second. Oh, sorry. It goes off and it comes back on again. Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Good evening.
Good evening. It's actually Logan's mother, Jennifer. In regards to outside learning, I did have a question. Is there going to be tents or some kind of structures put up for that? And was any consideration put in place for children to bring beach chairs? I know college universities are doing that to expand the learning environment during this pandemic. You know, bring a beach chair early on into the school year to see that, you know, we can maximize social distancing.
Great. Thank you very much. Some of that will be in the individual school plan, and certainly the chair issue and different things will be something Dr. Handerhan and Dr. Gleason have a conversation about, because I don't think I've heard beach chairs before. Ms. Tormey?
Thank you. This is Beth Twermy. I'm a teacher at Central School. I really just have two quick questions. One is, has the state approved our reopening plan? And if they haven't, do you have a timeline as to when you will expect that answer? And secondly, I just wanted to kind of corroborate what Mrs. Bassett just said about the asbestos test results at Central. I have one of the classrooms that was impacted by the flood, and I know my carpet has been ripped out, and I am concerned about asbestos. So I have a personal interest in making sure that we get those results and that they are shared with the staff at Central. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Gill?
Hi, yes, I'll keep it short and sweet tonight. Can you hear me properly?
It's, yeah, it just sounded like some drums going for a second.
Yes, I do hear that. Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So just to keep it short and sweet, to reiterate Samantha Bassett, for the teacher staffing, do we know what percentage of the staff is planning on coming back? My daughter definitely wants to get back to school, but my concern is she's going to go back and have 4 substitute teachers, and we're trying to really minimize our risk. So if it's not going to be like the normal education that she would typically experience, it would be nice to know, or if we're going to know, what teachers are returning and what aren't. So that would really be all. I don't know if you can announce what percentage of the staff is intending to come back in the meeting this evening or not, but that's really it for tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. And that'll be something, I guess Dr. Handerhan will put out at the appropriate time. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, just your name for the record, please.
My name is Sunisa Goncalves, and I have a daughter who's going to be a 4th grader in Central School. Right now, we've opted to start school with the virtual learning. So I was just hoping that maybe the parents who have opted for virtual can get a little bit more clarification on exactly why our child will not be able to go back to their home school. Right now, I understand the distribution of teachers and that there might not be as many in Central that are going back full time and might just be virtual. But if they don't go back to their home school, how exactly will you decide what school they will go to? Will they be put back into class with other kids that they are in virtual learning with at the time? Or a teacher that they're familiar with? Like, are the virtual teachers going to be in a classroom teaching our child, like in an actual school, or are they teaching from their home? So I'm just wondering if we can kind of clarify on that, on where the students that do choose to go back to in-person, because we are hoping to do that sometime soon, if we can get a better idea of exactly how you're going to relocate them if you have to. What's the determining factor of them not going back to their home school? I'm sure there's not going to be an influx of like 25 kids deciding at the same time in 4th grade to go back. So if it is just 1 or 2 students, will they find a place for them in Central? And that's really just it. I just want more clarification on the transition back to in-person for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And that'll be something Dr. Handerhan, Dr. Gleason will have an answer to.
Hi, hi, Sherry Squire. I have a daughter going into 1st grade at Old Mill School. And I just had a quick question with regard to transportation and whether any consideration has been given to having the temperature screenings conducted prior to students getting on the bus. I know personally, I would feel much more comfortable if it happened at that point, so that I knew I wasn't putting her at risk sending her on the school bus. And I'm sure there's a lot of other families that might feel the same way. So we're just hoping you could address that.
Thank you. And I do believe we did have a conversation about that. And part of the issue was that students could be outside moving around a bit, and it could give them a false temperature. So I believe that is why that is not being done. Correct, Dr. Handerhan?
Yes, that is part of the discussion. Yeah. It was a recommendation from our nursing staff.
Okay. Ms. Hanson?
Hi, this is Kim Hanson. My daughter's at Central School. How are you? I just want to follow up. Definitely questions that Samantha Bassett had about.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a bit.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to follow up with on Samantha Bassett's questions about the teaching staff. I teach in Rumson, where Dr. Handerhan came from, and this is a district where parents are heavily involved with the Board of Education. The pressure is on us educators every single day from the parents. And I just feel like we have no answers. I mean, I start school next week, next Tuesday. They actually made us come in earlier so that the teachers can get training. So to me, to push back central school opening and not have virtual options where we're in this world of flexibility and virtual learning, why we would not be starting remote to get these kids used to it. So if we go to a full 5-day remote schedule, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at this point. You have people that have to plan for childcare. I had to put in an accommodation 4 weeks ago for childcare at the district I teach in. So to not give any timeline or any flexibility here, it's just inexcusable to me. I feel like we should know staffing and how it's impacting our children and how it's impacting the different schools in the district. And I just think that
Kim, I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Oh, I apologize. I just think we need to have more answers to this. I think that pushing back a start date for school is just.
You're gone again. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I just don't agree with school starting later than it should. I think that we need to have something to work in the district for these teachers and for these students. So that's really all I have to say. I really would like to know the staffing numbers and how many teachers have taken a leave of absence or have filed for accommodations in the district. So if that could be all put on the website and Dr. Handerhan could have that come out, that would be great.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Hi, Tom.
Yep, Tom from Tom Rack. We spoke last 2 weeks, or I spoke, I should say. Thank you again for all of the work. It is not unnoticed. It is not unappreciated. Thank you to everybody. I just have a couple quick questions or comments. Last week, one of the other speakers had mentioned that there was an evaluation done of Allenwood School, and there would be serious issues with the social distancing in the room. Wondering if there have been efforts to address and remediate those issues with either less students. There was also a comment that the isolation room had not been completed or all of the issues associated with the isolation room in Allenwood School had not been addressed. Just wondering if that could also be commented on. To a similar point with the social distancing in the room sizes at Allenwood, if you could share or I could find out somewhat what the numbers are of average students per classroom, especially for my case in kindergarten. That's important for me, given that I had to make the choice on Monday for is virtual versus in person. I also noticed, as a previous caller mentioned, the verbiage added that says the district will make every effort to assign the student back to their resident school. I know Dr. Handerhan had mentioned that you're going to answer on the FAQ tomorrow. I would appreciate that. If you could also add the details associated with how the transportation would be handled for that as well. So in addition to how they're going to be reassigned to other schools based on the number of students or the staffing, how that would then be addressed by transportation of the kids as well. Other than that, I thank you for getting things up on the 28th. I know there was some miscommunication and things have been moved around. We were originally supposed to see virtual tours on the 27th. We'll see them on the 28th. I think that Allenwood is also doing an in-person on the 4th. If we could just get some clarification, I've been trying to call the school and get some clarification on exactly how that's going to work. That's pretty much it for me. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody. I appreciate the work going into it, and hopefully we can get the school year rolling.
Thank you, Tom. Probably a lot of your questions will be answered when the school posts their report on Friday. Dr. Handerhan, do you know what September 4th is? That's the first I'm hearing of it.
Not specifically. The principals are working on specific plans to provide, additional information for their families. So I can't specifically respond to that.
Okay, so maybe, Mr. Eck, the best thing you could do, possibly email Dr. O'Connell, because it is probably very hard with meetings and everything else to actually get in touch with someone. But certainly with an email, I think you'd probably be able to catch her.
Mr. Agnizio, if
Yes.
the speaker's child is in kindergarten, that would be kindergarten orientation on that day, if that's the case. Otherwise, it could be something different, but that could be a kindergarten orientation on that day for sure.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gleason.
Hello,
Hi, how are you? Just your name for the record, please.
Tony Knopel. I had asked last week as to why the elementary schools weren't going to do hybrid like the high school and the intermediate school, and I don't believe it was ever answered. And if you did consider the elementary schools going hybrid, would you be able to tell us the factors as to why you came to your decision not to? Thank you.
Thank you. Something else for Dr. Handerhan? Sometimes the mute goes off and then it pops back on. Let's see. I'm trying.
All right.
Carol?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, this is Carol Swankoski from Old Mill School speaking. Thank you for taking my call once again. I have a question. It was said tonight that the teachers are being encouraged to teach outside and to make use of the healthy September air and perhaps October. So the kids could be socially distanced and enjoying that fresh air and having a wonderful learning experience. Yet the specialist teachers at the elementary schools are prohibited from doing this. We are not allowed to take our classes outside due to passing in the halls. I asked if classes could go out, meet outside, leaving by the closest doorway possible to minimize any passing in the hallway. And I was told that that was really not going to be an effective solution. So I'm concerned about that. And my second question is this. Really, shouldn't the specialist teachers at the elementary level be pushing into the classrooms virtually, thereby, therefore eliminating a great risk of exposure to both students and staff members? The elementary specialist teachers are going into every classroom in the school in this plan on a weekly basis. Some specialist teachers at the elementary levels are doing this in multiple buildings. So those are my two questions. And I really thank you again for taking my call, and I thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Another two for Dr. Handerhan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. Just your name.
Hello. Sure, it's Michelle McKenzie. I have a son who attends Allenwood, and I just have a question about the size of virtual classes. Clearly with in-person learning, the class sizes are vastly reduced, and there's an element of improved, one-on-one education that comes with that. If we're doing district-wide virtual classes, will they be significantly larger in terms of class size. I mean, if I believe earlier they said there were 190 students who would be doing virtual in the elementary schools. If I do basic math, that would be 27 per grade. I realize that it's not as clear cut as that. Some classes might be larger, some classes might be smaller, but certainly the educational personalization that would occur in a class size of 30 students is vastly different than a class size of 10 that might be in person. So I'm curious to know if there will be more than one teacher per grade in those situations, and what will be the max class size. And if the class sizes are significantly larger, how will the personal instruction play out as compared to in-person learning when there could be a significant difference there? That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody else for public comment on the agenda items? Okay. Seeing none. Dr. Handerhan, Dr. Gleason, you have quite a few for tomorrow. Ms. Tice, did you have something? You're muted.
I think you have somebody with their hand up.
Oh, is there now? All right.
Just, yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry. Okay.
Hello,
Hi, good evening. Just your name for the record, please.
Catherine Wojciechowski, and I have a son going into Old Mill 4th grade, and I have a son going into intermediate 7th grade. And I don't know, I just, since I myself I am a special area teacher in Howell. I teach Spanish in Howell Township Public Schools. And I don't know, I just really needed to put my 2 cents in as far as backing up Mrs. Swinkowski, who is our music teacher at Old Mill. I mean, are they pushing in to the classroom still? They're still planning on pushing in the special area teachers? Yes.
I don't know that answer right now. I'm sorry.
Is that correct? No? No, yeah. I know, not for anything. I mean, so then those teachers, and if they have to go to multiple schools, those teachers are going to be exposed to all those kids. I mean, and then it's exponential. I mean, you're talking about 300, 400, 500 kids. I know in Howell, look, I know every district is different, but I do know that in Howell, what we're doing, not for anything, this is not to criticize, it's more to share as an idea. The special area teachers in Howell, and there are 10 elementary schools there, by the way. Special area teachers are actually to report to work. We are doing everything remote. The kids, when they go home, they will asynchronously access their special area subjects either that day or sometime that week. And to protect and keep the numbers down, all special area teachers will go to their home schools only. That keeps the exposure much lower to them. Can you hear me?
Yep, for whatever reason, you went on mute.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if you heard what I said, but so the special area teachers are going to be utilized throughout the day to give teachers breaks, the classroom teachers breaks, because it's going to be like a marathon. And they're going to be available. Also, we are going in, like I'm going in from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and I'm going to be utilized throughout the day. We will stay in cohorts. So I'm thinking that me as a teacher, I might go into 1, 2, 3 classrooms, maybe, and that's going to limit my exposure. I mean, I really would like to urge you to consider to limit the exposure of special area teachers, because that's going to exponentially increase the exposure. If you don't keep those teachers protected, I mean, it really, I don't know. I'm just trying to be helpful, and I'm worried because I myself have pre-existing conditions. I am in a situation where they just called it in Howell that they are not accommodating any. They're not making medical accommodations. You have to take a leave of absence, which, I mean, people are up in arms about that, but so I have to go in. I normally teach 500 students in 2 schools on either sides of the district. So I'm concerned about my health. I have to send my boys in. They are absolutely beside themselves, like it's affecting them mentally, not being out of school. And I want to keep them home for safety, but I have to do it for their mental health. I have to send them. And I have to go back for my mental health too, even though I'm very frightened, but I don't know. Not easy decisions. I have to give you all credit for just trying because this is not an easy position to be in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Jeannie, we're promoting up. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jenny Pompilio. I have an incoming 5th grader to Central School. I'm a lifelong Wall Township resident. I'm also an educator and obviously a parent. And I am just begging you with your reopening plan to consider going hybrid for our elementary schools. Wall Central has entirely too many people in the building to have them there on a daily basis. I'm not sure how they're going to socially distance the number of students in each classroom. I know personally last year my daughter had 23 kids in her class, and I know the size of those classrooms. It does not seem feasible to me. So I believe it would be the safest for everyone in the district, the teachers, the custodial staff, the secretaries, everybody. If all of our schools could start with a hybrid model for at least the first 6 to 8 weeks of the school year. I mean, we need to iron out a lot of things before we can just throw a bunch of kids into a building and start spreading germs. I mean, I know the germs spread, but this is a different monster. So I would just hope that you would really consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Mary Connors. I have children going into Allenwood Middle School and the high school. I just thank you very much for all the information coming out. I wish it was a little bit more detailed. I know that we're going to get building plans soon or in the near future. My comment more than a question is just today the CDC is changing some of the guidelines about self-quarantining with travel. I think my comment is that this is going to be a moving needle and it's going to happen quickly. As our universities are already back in process and some are doing really well and some of the universities are not doing as well, that there's going to be changes on the fly. And I'm wondering, are you, aside from phase 1 and phase 2, are you also planning for the quick change on the fly as the CDC and the governor may come out and change things on you with very little to no warning about going back to maybe full-time right away, or maybe asking everyone to go to virtual right away? Are you implementing some kind of, emergency plan for those fast changes as we've been seeing coming through?
Thank you. We discussed that, I believe, at the previous meeting, that the district with the plan is basically if the governor sneezes and says go virtual, we are ready to go virtual. So our plan is ever evolving and certainly lends itself to for us to bounce back in any direction they push us. Okay. All right. Seeing nobody else for public comment, we will move ahead to number 13, old business. At this time, I will ask for a motion for the approval of the secretary minutes for the executive session of July 14th, the workshop meeting for July 14th, executive session July 21st, business meeting July 21st, executive session of July 23rd, the special meeting of July 23rd, the executive session of July 28th, and the special meeting of July 28th.
I move that, Ralph.
Thank you, Mr. Gertz. Second, Mr. Sanfilippo. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please. You're muted.
Thank you. Spacebar is no longer working. Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
He is not here.
thank you. Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak, Mr. Wondrak, still on mute, Mr. Wondrak.
Ken?
Mr. Agnesiu.
Yes. Oh,
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Okay. New business. We have several new policies. Policy 1648, 1648.02, 1649, 2270, 2431.3. Could I have a motion for that? Motion by second by Mr. Gartz at this time. Anybody in the public wish to speak on any of these policies? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Krupa. Mr. Krupa?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Nasser?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Gartz?
Yes.
And Mr. Agnesiu.
Yes. And we do not have any second readings this evening. At this time, number 15, Board of Education report. Could I have a motion for A through D? Dr. Handerhan, we are putting on hold letter E. Yes, okay. Could I have a motion for A through D, please?
Ralph, are we tabling B as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we are. Thank you for that. So A, C, and D.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nasser. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second, Mr. Gartz. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Ms. Mangan?
Yes.
Mr. Nasser?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Gartz?
Yes.
Mr. Krupa?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Agnesiu.
Yes, thank you. At this time, Superintendent's report. Dr. Handerhan.
Okay, I'm requesting a motion to approve items A through F being the revised calendar. It's an addition. And the, I'm sorry, to add to the consent agenda. And I would like to withdraw BB from the consent agenda, please.
Could I have a motion on that?
So moved.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, you want a second, Mr. Wondrak?
I'll second. That's fine.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right.
Yeah.
Any discussion on any of the items? Seeing, Mr. Krupa? You're muted.
In better times, some of these things I'd like, again, I'm going to say some links to, for example, especially courses and curriculum. I think for the board, while we take the recommendations of the administration and the superintendent, this is a very active insightful board that maybe we can see about linking. And I know that there's some private, not privacy, but protection that you want for some of the documents that you work on. But I think the board is entitled to look at those things, and it enables us to, support you more and also participate with the public question when there is any.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa. Anybody else? Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
No to A, Q, and R, yes to the others.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizia.
Yes. Number 17, Business Office, Mr. Smythe.
Okay, under item 17, there'll be requests for 3 separate motions. I ask for a motion to approve item 17A through E by consent agenda.
So moved.
Could I have a second on that?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sanfilippo. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes. Yes.
thank you. Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizia.
Yes. Okay.
1 second. Still have
Yes.
other items on the agenda under the business office. I would ask for a motion to approve items 17F. And then I'll have separate motions for G and for H. Sorry.
So moved on F.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Mangan. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe.
Ms.
Roll call.
Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Mondrak,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizia.
Yes.
As for a motion to approve item 17G, recommend approval of the breakfast and lunch pricing for the 2021 school year.
Do we have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
Motion. Okay. Motion, Mr. Sanfilippo, second, Ms. Mangan. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Wondrak, Mr. Wondrak, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Adenizia.
Yes.
Okay, and lastly, recommend approval item 17H, recommend adoption of a new bid threshold.
I'll move that.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gartz. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Gartz,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Krupa,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Mangan,
Yes.
Mr. Nasser,
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Yes.
Ms. Stites,
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak,
Yes.
and Mr. Adenizia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we will open up public comment. Limited 5 minutes, and it's for any school district matter. Mrs. Marr, good evening.
Hi,
Again.
Mr. Adonisio. Before I start, when I'm done speaking, if somebody could speak again to what was taken off the superintendent's report that was not included in the vote, that would be appreciated because it's sort of blurred out on what was being taken off. I have 6 topics. I will talk quickly. The WTEA requested to see the building plans, and we thought we were going to do that last Friday. It has not occurred yet, and now schedules have come out, and we have had some problems with at least a teacher teaching in 2 of the largest buildings, at least on one day, so that teacher would be in a building with 531 students and 407 students. So we would truly appreciate to look at the master schedules and the building plans before they are announced to the public. Number 2, there still remains 25 protocols that we've requested to see and 32 questions that were on last week's board agenda that we have not heard about yet. Number 3, on Monday of this week, the governor announced some numbers on approved plans and what kind of plans were approved. And there is 436 hybrid plans, 180 delays, 59 full-time districts, and 11 combos. We are one of the combo districts, which means we are part of 1.6% of the state. That sort of worries the WTEA that the district having 2 plans within the same district is obviously not looked upon in this state as something that a lot of people are doing. And I just wanted to get those pieces of data out. Number 4, which is a big issue. We have 27 lunch paras where their terms and conditions of employment are going to be changed, specifically because we are not serving lunch. They have not been notified. It is just the fair thing to do, since we have decided what those folks are going to be doing to get the word out to those people. Now, the district needs, if the district is going to continue the thought of putting a para or a person on each bus at the end of the day to make sure the students stay masked, to make sure the students aren't eating lunch on the bus, we need 43 paras. We have 27 lunch paras, so we are already short in having enough people on the bus. But let's start with that first run. So the first run is the high school. They would be leaving. There is 24 paras at the high school. So that first run is 16 people short. Then we move to the intermediate school run. We still need 43 because we have 43 buses and vans, but we only have 20 available paras at that point of the day. So at that point, we are 23 short. Then we move to the third run of the day, the elementary. We still need 43 because we still have 43 buses and vans. That is when we have enough people. So we have to consider what we're going to do with the runs prior to elementary. Here is my concern. I did hear today that when I spoke to the folks in the cafeteria, I understood that they felt that they needed about 8 people to do the grab and goes. Today, I heard that that number was down to 2. So we're going to feed all the people we have to feed with only 2 WTEA members and say we can. I'm not thinking we can, but let's go back to 8. So say we need 8 to do that, and there is 27 or so. Those cafeteria employees should be given the opportunity to ride those buses earlier in the day. What I understand is that there is a potential letter going out, and in that letter is the F word. I see everybody's eyes open. No, not that F word, the word furloughed. And if we are furloughing employees that are WTEA employees and we have not been told and they're needed, that is poor planning. Also on the agenda, there are no approved leaves that we can see. We do know that people have requested accommodations and they may or may not wind up in a leave, but it's hard to believe that there is none on an August report that have been approved. So because of that, tonight we sent out a survey asking people if they have requested an accommodation, whether it's medical or not, requested a leave, whether it's medical or not, to see if our numbers match 0. And the last item, thank you for letting me speak, is the same item we've been talking about, is we maintain that the only way to open this district is all hybrid. And besides being hybrid, we should be opening when all of the pieces are in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing, okay. Ms. Cross?
I'm just a little concerned too.
Your name for the record, please.
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. I'm just a little concerned too on how you're doing the mixed for the elementary schools and the high schools. And what I don't understand, it seems like an awful lot tonight was discussed in executive session that should not have been discussed in executive session. So the attorney that's on the call that was in that back room, there's no way. I mean, you did the hand carry for the revised calendar. You took off the human resources. All these changes that were made, you must have been discussing in the back, because when did you discuss it otherwise? I mean, you should have been discussing it in the front. So way too much is going on in this back room, it seems. And then, you know, I don't even think you should be discussing salaries right now. Any of these negotiations for administration, for Mr. Smythe, none of it. You got to get the schools open. Forget about all this other stuff. You got 150 pages of nonsense on here. All people care about was the school opening. Lisa Gleason's report should have been the only thing on here tonight. This is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. And the board president, I don't know what you're doing. We got to get the schools open. People are like, what in the world is going on here? How could you not have answers to questions? And Ralph, oh, I see Lisa's writing notes and Dr. Handerhan. You should have these answers all off the tip of your tongue. To August 25th. I don't think there's any chance we're opening. 0. All these reports should be online for Central School, the Mercury, everything. Who's going to trust any of you? I don't trust anybody. Because, you know, safety issues you're not taking seriously. I don't know what Chrissy Opperhammer was talking about. Oh, let's forget about the past. How can we forget about the past? Just happened last year. Now we have the pipe bursting in Central. No, can't forget about it. You don't learn from your mistakes. You just keep making them over and over and over again when nobody in Wall Township is held accountable. It's crazy. This is crazy to think it's 10:12 p.m. and you didn't have the agenda up online. And when you sent it out in the Friday packet, you should have went back so that the Friday agenda had the final documents all here. This was, I think, the 5th or the 6th version put up at 4:30. You were even putting up versions from Friday up today. And I saved them all as you did it. This is nuts. And then why are you changing the educational space from Allenwood to not use the cafeteria? I saw you took that off, but you didn't tell anybody what you were doing. I thought that was odd that that was in there and that was the only school. That's when I knew that you weren't opening. I knew you were having this hand carry on the calendar. You could tell. I look forward to the attorney looking over the minutes and getting this board in order. I think this is the fourth attorney we've had at a meeting. I wish we could just have one. Because to have one at each meeting is dysfunctional, like how the board is right now. Completely dysfunctional. What reserves did you put over from the budget, Mr. Smythe? Because I know you just put up the June numbers, you switched bank accounts. We never actually got a number. So if you can tell us what that number is tonight. Another thing I found strange is this $55 an hour for the pandemic response team. And Ralph Adonisio signs it as the president, but his wife's a teacher. Why is he signing this on August 20th when the board meeting's tonight? And how many other districts are paying teachers to be on a response team? It's not just I'm a volunteer and I want to help out. If not, great. I'd just like to know it. I don't know if we could pay $2 million and $55 an hour for the response team now until June 30th. So since you all voted on it, if you could go over that. How many people are on it? I see 10 people got paid for an hour, but what are people doing on these response teams? Because it's August 25th and
Thank you, Ms. Cross, your time is done. And as usual, most of your statements are completely false. And Mr. Scarillo, could you please clarify for the record about the types of things that are discussed in executive session that do not violate Open Public Meeting Acts or any law, please?
Sure. So the exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act are contract negotiations, personnel matters, matters of attorney-client privilege, and student matters. So essentially, those are the primary items. Of course, our other items, litigation, contracts, if I didn't say contracts as opposed to contract negotiations, other items involving the use of federal funds. So I can assure the public that there was no violation of the Open Public Meetings Act this evening.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Adonisio,
Yes, Mr. Hartz.
I would just like to also ask Mr. Scarillo to comment. We hired his firm as educators and experienced educators who now practice law, as well as lawyers who have a long time of experience in education. They have a wide array of experience. And going into this hire, we knew, based on the interview that we had with Mr. Scarillo's firm, is that there was going to be a rotation of attorneys in the beginning of the process in order to give us exposure to the 3 or 4 attorneys that have expertise in areas that we felt that we were going to need, and to get to know them. So Mr. Scarillo, could you comment a little bit more about the game plan going forward?
There was no intention on our part to deceive anyone by having 4 of our named partners attend the first 4 meetings. That was purposeful. We actually planned the meetings purposefully so that the attorney in our office who specializes in special education got an opportunity to attend one of the meetings. She attends Board of Ed meetings and does special education. Mr. Merlino, who does contract negotiations and personnel matters, and also attends Board of Education meetings, looked to attend one of the meetings so he could get to know the board members and the operation of the district. Mr. McKeever, who specializes in construction matters, specializes in contract negotiations, also attends Board of Education meetings, sought to attend one of the meetings. And certainly this is my second meeting. One of the meetings I attended was a retreat for the Board of Education. And one of the overlying purposes is when we were interviewed, there was an interest, and our firm does have a number of attorneys who spent careers as educators. There are 4 of us, in fact, who spend various lengths of time as educators at the high school level, at the elementary level, and at the college level. And there was an understanding when we were hired that we would develop a program of professional development for the Board of Education over the course of the year. We conducted the first of those professional developments in August. We're looking to schedule the second of those in October. So the idea that we would, 4 of us, would attend the first 4 or 5 meetings and rotate. So we each got a feel for the board so that when we planned our program of professional development during the course of the year, we would have the opportunity to have firsthand information from each one of us. And the likelihood is that you will not now see 4 of us rotate any longer. The plan is for 2 of us, possibly 3 of us, to attend all the meetings going forward. So the public will likely see my face each month, and will likely see Mr. McKeever and Ms. Cornell's face the other night of the month going forward. But the overall, as Mr. Gard said, the overall perspective was, as we talked to the board when we were interviewed, was that we wanted to send each of our named partners. Ms. Osborne has not had an opportunity to come out, and the likelihood is at this moment we won't probably until January or February have each one of us have an opportunity to meet with the board, meet the board members, have an opportunity to observe the board in action, take notes during it. If you were watching me, I was taking notes. We each have taken notes. And so that we can plan to work with the board going forward. The board has an interest in supplementing its own professional development from the School Boards Association with a more directed professional development with respect to the issues that face the Wall Township Board of Education. So that is why you've seen 4 of us. All of our names are on the letterhead, and that is why the rotation was what it was. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And to clarify, the board did not participate in any illegal conversations in executive session. I just want to clarify that because that kind of stuff is alleged a lot. And
that's not going to happen, Mr. President. That's not going to happen while I'm sitting in the room. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
That's not going to happen. Not after 38 years of doing this and 48 years in the industry. That's not going to happen.
Just a couple minutes involved, I guess, huh?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Krupa.
I know there were a lot of questions. I don't know that we're going to answer all or any of them. I mean, whatever the decision is by the professionals and other board members. But I did have one which I think somebody else earlier might have sparked, which is as part of Dr. Gleason's plan relating to the programs, whether they're virtual or the hybrid. How will the extra help, you know, the Nights for Success, that kind of thing, because that was said, you know, how are we approving these salaries and this and that and these stipends, whatever, that was in there. And I think, while it's obvious that if something doesn't run, we are working to address that differently than we did in the spring going forward. With that particular one, how might that look if it's going to run for virtual or hybrid?
Mr. Krupa, Nights for Success, which is the Title I funded after-school program at the high school. We've had some good success with that program for the last 2 years. We're working with the high school administrative team to see how we can continue to run that program in light of the early dismissal schedule. So some options that we have could be to continue to run that program virtually in small groups and in individual sessions, which is what we did back in the spring. And we still had some pretty healthy attendance. So that's one option. The other option, which we would take some logistics to work out, would be looking at ways to either run that program directly after school, or, you know, bringing the kids back, much like an athletics program. So there are still some challenges that we need to work out with that program. We usually don't start that program until somewhere in the, mid to late fall. So we have time to work out some of those details. And the reason we don't start that typically until the mid to late fall is we need time to assess students and see which students qualify for that program. So that is on the table as far as we have budgeted for it. We have funds allocated for it. We submitted that grant on June 30th. So there are funds dedicated to that program. It's just a matter of working out the logistics and seeing where we are at that point.
That'd be great, because I know a lot of parents are concerned for their kids that struggle with learning, whether it's hybrid or virtual.
Absolutely.
And then as far as, why people are paid, a lot of hours, a lot of meetings, and many of the people that were involved were our own staff members. And, I, as a board member, attended some of those meetings. They're not 15-minute conversations, they're hours and hours. So I don't know how anybody would expect that there isn't something in terms of compensation arranged for that, like maybe a curricular project, especially because they're not only given their time, but their expertise. There's so many things that people contributed that like, well, that was a good one. That was a good idea. Or who thought of that, and that's just the nature of the good minds in the wall community and staff.
Samantha?
Hello?
Hi.
Yes, Samantha Bassett. The district has asked parents to be patient as you work through the guidance and create the reopening plans and finalize the details. And I think that parents have been more than patient, but if any matter of importance to our district was deserving of a town hall or a question and answer style forum, this is certainly it. Other districts have held them and had all the necessary administrative and central office staff, the head of facilities, head custodian, the head nurse, transportation department, curriculum and athletics on the Zoom to answer parents' questions. I think that would have been something that would have been worthwhile for the community. It's the last business meeting before school opens, and I don't think it's unreasonable for parents to expect to have some answers on things. So I do hope that you will consider a question and answer type forum when the building plans are released. So at least those can happen at the building level. I think that would be very helpful. And I also wanted to say that Mrs. Embaum and the staff at WIS is doing an amazing job at communicating to families the details of the plan, what happens week by week as we're moving towards, our start date. My daughter is participating in nights and training this week, and it is just like a well-oiled machine. I have no concerns for the opening of school at intermediate school. They are doing a great job over there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Catherine Wojciechowski. Again, I just wanted to clarify because I joined the meeting late. So just to clarify, is it definite or the change to the 16th, or it's being considered? I'm a little confused.
It's definite. We approved the change to the calendar.
Are there any my brain is exploding because I have 5 in-service days in Howell, and then I have my 3 days of childcare just bumped up to 9, and that's up to $1,000 unless I get affordable. Is there any options for affordable childcare in the area? Or did they put a list together or something? I think, was there a list?
Well, we have the before school and after school wrap program.
Right.
For the elementary school.
Yeah, my son's doing that for Old Mill before care, but I'm talking about so on, for example, the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever, the 9 day, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 14, 15, 16, those 9 days, 7 days. I have no childcare. Full day, right? In other words, it's full remote. Is it full? Wait, are they going remote? No, they're not coming in. What is it?
No, school will not start until the 16th for students. That'll be their
Yeah.
first day at school.
Yeah. That's
And
like half my first paycheck.
I know,
I'm just-
unfortunately, the way
I'm
things
sorry.
work-
I can't. In other words, and there's like there's no resources the district is providing for options of like childcare for people who have to go to work, or is there a way to do that or to help us out? Because this is a chunk of money. Like I can't even out of my family budget. I mean, I'm just very upset.
No, we
So-
believe me, we certainly understand, and this is part of the conversations that we have with everything. We know every decision affects families differently, and every decision weighs on us because there's a consequence to everything, and certainly none of these decisions are easy, and certainly none of these decisions work for everyone, unfortunately. So I don't know. I mean, we could maybe have a conversation with the town and see if the town has any kind of program that they have, or they could start. I'm not aware of anything, but certainly it's something we could ask about. I don't know if us as a district could open up for just a wrap program.
Yeah.
Or school
That's what I figured.
starts. So
All right. It's a dilemma. All right.
sorry.
But thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. You too.
Hi, Michelle Kendrick, Wall High School. I just have a couple of comments and questions. So based on the previous conversation, so if we're moving the calendar up, are the new teacher trainings still happening tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday in the district? Can that be answered now? With the change of the schedule, are the new teacher trainings being rescheduled? Yes, no? Can you hear me?
Jill, would you like me to address that?
Yes, Dr. Gleason.
That would move the teacher training, teacher in-service days to Monday, September 14th and Tuesday, September 15th.
Okay. I'm speaking to the new teacher training that is supposed to happen this Wednesday, Thursday, and the virtual day on Friday. Are those being moved up as well?
No, those days will still go on. Tomorrow morning begins new teacher orientation. Correct.
So I have a question. The Visual and Performing Arts New Jersey standards, why are we approving them being aligned to 2014 standards in the new teacher training and in the board minutes when on June 3rd, New Jersey adopted the 2020 standards and the standards are now different? Why are we aligning them to the set that was before the one that was just approved? So as of June 3rd, those standards have been out there. Art teachers have been working with those standards as we were approving them. So there's a little disconnect there, and that's a little bit of, that information should have been known by the people who were planning that training. So I suggest that somebody look into it because, we're not on 2014, we've approved 2020. So that's a mistake there that needs to be looked into because the standards are very different. It's a lot more based on process and not product. The standards have also been aligned different to enduring understandings. And there are lots of changes. And the fact that, the people who are in charge of visual and performing arts don't know that, that concerns me. So that's one thing there. The other thing is we're supposed to be we were approved to do the art supply materials. My question is, how do we know how many bags to make? We have no schedules. We don't have class lists. at the high school, you know, in an elementary situation, you can make these bags of stuff because it's kind of the same across the board. And all sixth graders are doing the same, and all fifth graders are doing the same. But in high school, we're talking about specialized classes where the materials cost, you know, considerably a lot more money per item. And why would I order, you know, just kind of blindly or make up packets blindly without having at least a tentative class number to put those together? And I also think that nothing was discussed either in any kind of, you know, meeting over the summer or anything as far as direction as to how to do these make and take bags. We were also asked if we needed to order, you know, more scissors to let someone know. Well, why would a district, why would a high school order 500 pairs of scissors or 400 pairs of scissors for every single kid in the building? What are we going to do with 400 pairs of scissors when we're done? I think that's irresponsible, and we're not given any guidelines as to whether, last year I did it on my own. I had the kids bring in their own pencils. If classroom teachers can request school supplies, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask I don't think it's unreasonable to ask kids to bring in a ruler. I added up the cost of 400 rulers. And, you know, we're not still getting the best prices. This ed tech data, there's a lot of things we get cheaper in different places that we can't no longer use. And, you know, I'd rather go to the dollar store and buy 10 of them myself and spend my own money, which I do all the time, than to, in good conscience, pay $6 for a pair of scissors when 400 pairs of scissors are going to be ordered to make personal kits. So we need some guidance as to what's in the kits. And again, we have no class lists, and not even 10 in one. So even if you told me there's 20 kids in the class, it doesn't matter if they're in the building or virtual, they still need a kit. But I have zero numbers. I know no class lists. I don't even have my class assignments. Okay, so I don't even know who to make kits for. And yet I was asked to provide 2 dates this coming week for these 12 hours with absolutely no directions. Just pick a date, here you go, 12 hours, you're done. I think we need a little bit more guidance. When questioned, I understand that some of the administrators are part-time, so on days where questions were asked, they were not working days. So there's a lag time there. And, you know, we're 7 days, well now, thank you for the update. I wasn't sure about the schedule, but, you know, we do have a little bit more time. And the turnaround time to order things with no direction as to what to order, plus everybody's backed up as far as shipment. How do we make packets if some of those supplies weren't there? And we were not instructed at the end of the year to order everything for every single kid. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and we do need some direction. That's all. Oh, the other thing is, lastly, how do we approve a visual and performing arts academy with 5 students, 2 art and 3 music? And if we're having these meetings, that's kind of loss of instructional time. So there's a committee approved and there are 2 academies approved. Well, 5 students total. So there has to be either time involved with that, and time is money. So in good consciousness, I don't know who it was who didn't vote for the 2 academies, but thank you. But I really think we need to look into these academies because we've had the time to set them up. They didn't go forward. And, you know, I've been in the district for 35 years. We have
Ms. Kendrick,
always had.
thank you. Your time is up.
Okay, no problem. Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
evening. Ms. Rubino?
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Just your name for the record, please.
Kimberly Rubino. My son is in Old Mill School. I come from a place of healthcare and not education, and I would just like to commend you all for your brave confidence in going back to this school year. As a healthcare person who has not stopped working since that dreadful day on March 13th, I can say that life is okay in the healthcare world. I walk into Monmouth Medical every day and life is normal. So I know that very soon as we roll into it, everything will be okay. I just wanted to commend the teachers, especially, and the administrators who have just put their heart and soul into this. We know that you do want to go back to school. And I just have a little message for the teachers coming from a nurse myself, if you don't mind me reading. It goes like this. It says, as nurses, we were terrified. We were not ready. We didn't know what was to come. We did not want to change our ways. We couldn't imagine what each day would look like. We were stressed, exhausted, panicked, overwhelmed, and anxious for the first time in our lives. Fast forward 6 months, we're okay. We've adapted. We are stronger together. We are essential, as our teachers are. We feel our worth. We make a difference, and others know it. We are proud to go to work every day. As you return to work this month, I know it's scary, but promise it will be okay. Be flexible, be strong, be creative, and be proud. You are so needed, and remember that now more than ever, these kids need your love and support. And just coming from a place of healthcare, it's two different worlds I'm living. I happen to be married to a school administrator in a different district, so I see every side of this, I feel, and I just you just have to go back in confidence. There's no answer for childcare. There's no answer for anything, but I believe in Wall Township, and I think you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
Huh.
Ms. Hanson?
Hi, good evening. It's Kim Hansen. I just want to say thank you. I know this is also exhausting, but I really hope that, this district is also supporting their teachers. I will say that coming from a district where.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out again. You kind of get, your volume goes low.
Coming from a district where parents are heavily involved, I hope you're giving the teachers the support they need. Last week, we were given the option to do multiple professional development where we were paid, where we could do 5 hours a day, 2 hours a day, on how to better our virtual classrooms, how to engage our students, how to welcome them after such a crazy pandemic of not being in school for so long, and how to just check in and mentally check in with everybody. And I commend these teachers. It's a scary time. This is not what teaching looks like or what it should look like. And I hope that you are giving these teachers the support they need. I disagree with starting school a week late. I think that more could have been done. I think that these teachers could have done virtual. I think they could have done meet and greets. I disagree, but the decision is made, so we kind of have to just go with it and hope for the best with school opening. But I really hope we're pushing to open these doors safely, and I hope that you are going to be giving these teachers support, how to make a classroom look better, what it should look like, how to engage special education students in an environment where they're not successful unless they're actually in a classroom. So I just wanted to say to the teachers out there, I support you, and I hope that the district does as well. And, I commend everybody for their hard work. I just think that you need to give this district more answers. You have to come to the table with answers because parents are fearful. So thank you.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
You too.
Patty?
Hello?
Hi, how are you? Just your name for the record, please.
Hi, Ralph. It's Patty Nowalski. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you guys again for being here again. I appreciate it. I have several questions as I am a parent at Old Mill Elementary School and now a parent at Wall Intermediate School. One thing I want to say is my daughter did nights in training last week at Wall, intermediate, and it was amazing. She was so happy, so pleased, and loved every single second of it. So Erin Embaum did the bomb. She did the best she could with what she had. As a principal, with all those teachers were amazing, and they did a phenomenal job with what they were given, and they did it. And I just want to give a big congratulations to them, because that was amazing. And all my friends agree. Second, I have a third grader at Old Mill Elementary School. I adore Mrs. Swinkowski for calling in every single time she does. But my question is, my third grader is going into school from 9:05 to 1:05. Why is music being pushed into elementary school? Why? I want math, reading, writing, social studies, whatever else they need to learn. And of course, gym is required. Why are those electives not being elective or virtual when we are doing this half day? I don't understand that keeps coming up. I love music. I think music is amazing. My family listens to music every day. We do not need it every single class pushed in. She's nervous, so let the lady go back and not have to worry about pushing in. My second thing is, I do not understand why we are even discussing not pushing these kids into 5 days. They are great. Let's go. Let's go. We broke the curve. Let's go, everybody. Let it go. We are ready to go. Every single person who works in a hospital has had to deal with it. Every wife who has a husband in a hospital has had to deal with it. We have all made it through. We figured out what to do. We got in. Teachers, I love you, but figure out what to do. Try it, do it. And if it's a problem, then complain about it. But please, please, you're essential. Try it, do it. You're all out to dinner. You're all at the beach. You're all at the pool. You're all out everywhere. You're at the stores. You're at the mall shopping for your kids. Please try it and then complain if it's bad. But can we please get a plan of when these kids can get back into school, what the deal is, when we can all get on a page, when we can get Central together, when we can fix Central, we get all the schools together, that we can send these children back to school. But please, if the intermediate school has art, music, Spanish, every language as a virtual, the elementary school should be a virtual too. I want math, reading, writing, arithmetic to be the primary learning for my children. I do not understand. I think the music is wonderful, but there is no reason that it should be pushed into a classroom when the classroom is already being compromised with social distancing. We need to make this all about the fundamentals, and everything else should be virtual until we figure it out. I love the art teacher. I love the math teacher. I love the Spanish teacher. I think everybody is essential, amazing teachers. But you need to back up and say, hey, we'll stand by and we'll be virtual. And the rest should be primary skills. I have a daughter going into middle school that needs math so bad. I'm sorry, but she does not need art right now. She's already artistic. She can paint anything. Math, arithmetic, writing, reading is all we need. Please just figure out the schedule. You guys can do it in a week. I can do it in a week. You all can do it in a week. Just figure it out and make it essential and make a plan, and you will stop having people complain about you. Just figure it out. Get it on the page. 5 days for elementary school, 2 days, whatever we're doing for middle school, push it to 5 for everybody, and you guys can do it. You're very good at it. Let the teachers help you. Be supportive, and you're all doing a great job. So thank you very much, all of you. But seriously, these kids have to go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too, Ralph. Thanks.
And before I move forward too, I just wanted to correct something from earlier. One of our long-term teachers here, Ms. Opergaard, her name was mispronounced. So it's Opagard. Whatever was said was just way off base. So I just wanted to correct that. Ms. Rosselli, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Sally Central School. You're probably going to say, oh, you see me at SharpRite, and you'll say, oh, that's the girl who always talks to the board meeting. Or you'll say, oh, that's the girl that always talks to the board meeting. So it's late and we all want to go home, but you know, I'm sitting here with my golden retriever and talking, and I have to just address a few things. So the first is, we're not scared to go back to work. You know, we're all educated adults. We're not scared to go back to work. But there are protocols given by the state that we have to follow to keep everyone safe. No one loves doctors and nurses more than I do. I go all the time. I think they're great. However, they signed up and they had safety protocols for this situation. We have to remember, we're still in a pandemic. And this is a very short time in a child's life. And they might not get the best kindergarten experience, but they're going to get the best out of me. I love them and I want to go back to work. I've wanted to go back since March 14th, but you don't have to hear all of our personal stories. But I had to just jump in here and say, we're not scared. We want to go back, but we want to go back safely. And that's what we're entrusting you to do for us. Thanks. And this is my last call. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Rosselli. Ms. Rosselli is a fantastic kindergarten teacher at Central School. She forgot to throw that in. Anybody else for public comments? Hello? Melinda?
Hi, thanks. So I would have to echo.
Sorry, just your name for the record, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. Melinda Papagni. I have a son who will be in Wall Intermediate School, and I want to echo that he went to Nights in Training last week and also had a fantastic experience. And so it occurred to me, there's so many of us saying that exact same thing. So what did she do right? What are the things that they did well in that experience, and what can we learn from that to carry forward to our first day of school or our first day of other programs? So I think they did a great job of communicating. I think they had their morning procedures really well laid out and they followed them to a T. And I know that because one day I pulled up without my form filled out, was asked to pull aside, make sure it was filled out, and then my child could enter. So I think they really had it buttoned up. I don't know if it can work that way when school gets back in, but I think the overall theme was they were well prepared. They all knew as teachers, and the principal was there every day greeting them, what they were going to do, how they were going to do it. I think they had, their plan in place, and they executed it really well, and they communicated really well. So I think those are some really great takeaways for us to contemplate and think about. And then just lastly, I wanted to thank you. I do not agree with the negative comments that get said often on these calls. I think you guys are public servants. You've been hired, some of you, to do a specific job. You are hired for your credentials and our expectation that you will do a good job. And I'm sure you are doing the very best job you can. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And it's really unusual times, but I do believe most of the community really appreciates the hard work you're putting in and what you're doing for our kids. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, so this time public comment is now closed. I will ask any board members, Ms. Megan, you have any comments this evening? No. Ms. Stites?
Hi. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. I know this is a really difficult time for everyone. I'm a parent as well in the district, and I know we all have very different jobs, different responsibilities. We all have there's so many different moving parts, and I do think the administration and the board and the WPEA and the WPASC are working really hard to work together I just want to try to remind people that from my point of view, this is something that we are a collective effort. And I think it's important to recognize that this is not an us against them, whoever wants to talk about us's or them. And our goal is really to get people back in school safely, to educate our students, and do the best we can. I would just like to mention that the reason that's been explained to me that we are doing these meetings virtually still is to give as many people as possible in the public to access the meeting by either watching it on YouTube or participating on Zoom so that they can access public comment. The board did in fact meet in July in the intermediate school where we had our board retreat. I know I've been asked repeatedly, and I've seen a few comments maybe on social media that were questionable. I'll say that because I really don't want to add any gasoline to the fire or be inflammatory, but it's not because we're afraid to go to school and we're going to try to push people to go to school and do what we're not willing to do. I will roll down the hallways of every school in Wall Township if need be. I'm not afraid to go into the schools. I know that they have been well prepared. Our custodial staff is knocking themselves out. And I think it's important that, and I've heard it more than once, and that's why I'm addressing it. I'm not endorsing any plan that sends people to school, and I'm afraid to go have an in-person meeting. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I hope that we can all keep working together. We are going to get through this someday. I wish I knew when that day was, but we're going to get there, and we're going to do it hopefully collectively. And I look forward to that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nasser, do you have anything this evening?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ms. Hanson, her comment about the district supporting the teachers, it touched upon a really sensitive topic for me because, you know, this is a stressful time. I know I'm an administrator in another district. I know what we're going through, you know, on both sides. And, you know, the stress, the anxiety that's going to build with all of this, you know, we as a district have to take care of our teachers, our staff, but we also have to take care of each other, you know, focusing on the mindfulness, focusing on trying to bring down that level of anxiety and focus on the task at hand. It can be tough, not just for the staff and teachers, but also for the parents, even the students. So, you know, it's an incredibly important time as we go back. You know, if you need people to talk to, reach out to, make sure you do so. The district has resources. A lot of our insurance companies have resources, you know, whatever it takes. There's somebody to talk to and there's somebody to reach out to work through whatever challenges that you have. I know I'm finding myself needing those types of resources now because I'm stressed. I get it, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And you know, it's important that other people know that it's okay, especially getting into what's going to be that initial wave of stress when we all go back, and then things subside afterwards. So, you know, I wish everybody the best. I look forward to talking to and working through this with everybody. We're going to get past it. I'm positive of that, and we're going to do it together. So that's all I got to say. Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you. Mr. Krupa.
I don't think I have too much more to add than what the two board members and everybody else has said already so far. I do want to say thank you though to everybody, our administrators, teachers, the central office team there. I know you guys have been working really, really hard, and you know, I don't know how much more we can be doing in 24 hours. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa. Mr. Gartz?
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Wondrek? Ken, do you have anything?
Yeah. Yes, I do. You have to remember that we are trapped into this decision-making by an education board at the state level, unelected people. And we have a governor who changes his mind at the last minute. So it's very difficult to lay out a complete plan. And I know some of these other plans have been approved, but that doesn't mean they're going to happen yet. So we kind of live this thing day by day. I just wanted to make that distinction. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanfilippo?
I always got something to say. Couple things. There was the figure of 1.6 districts are doing sort of a mixed plan of going back. I would say that I think, as far as, our administration and our board, I think that means that we're listening to multiple facets. I think, we're listening to the teachers, we're listening to our administrators, we're working, the best way that we can to, accommodate people in so many different regards. And some of the things that kind of, dawn on me a little bit here and there is that, I think it's going to be valuable to have, kids coming 5 days a week, and then kids on a hybrid schedule, and then kids on a virtual schedule, and however that, mixes out, so that when the pandemic of 2055 rolls around, then everybody can point back, to all of the different things that we learned and the values that we shared. The other thing that I would mention, in reference to sort of the temperature taking on the bus prior to, look, we're all in this together. We have personal responsibility, as people and human beings on this planet. And I know that not everybody can take their kids' temperatures every single second of every single day. But if you have the wherewithal and the availability to, stick a thermometer in your kid's ear or shoot them in the head with the little laser thing, or, however which way you can do it, do that before the kid gets on the bus. I mean, nobody wants to spread this thing. And if there's a lot of times when, a temperature is not going to even, make a determination as to whether somebody has COVID or not. But you know what? We have to exhaust all options, and we have to, dot every I, cross every T, and the lowercase j's as well. So I would like to also, thank everybody top to bottom throughout this entire process. I think that I sincerely hope and I believe that when we come through this in a month or 2 months, that, we're going to look back and we're going to say, hey, we did this, we planned this the best way that we possibly could. And I'm excited to see what happens. And those are my thoughts. So.
Thanks, Chris. Mr. Smythe, did you have anything that you wanted to add this evening?
Come on. He's just a
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Gleason, did you have anything else?
I just want to thank everybody for their participation tonight and for the questions. I know that that's really important in making the decisions that parents need to make. And Dr. Handerhan and I will be working on those questions as we do every week, updating the FAQs and trying to get the information as quickly to parents as possible as that information becomes available. So thank you, everybody. And thank you to our amazing teachers for all the work you're doing. As so many people have echoed tonight, this is a challenging time. We know you want to be at work. We know how much you love your kids and love the students here. And we want to get this right for everybody.
Thank you. Dr. Handerhan, and just the three things that you pulled from the agenda, could you just say those again? Because I guess that part broke up.
Okay, I would just like to say what I pulled from the superintendent's report is double B, BB. item BB. And of course, FF is the revised calendar. Okay, just a few things. I want to thank everyone. Again, participation is critical to this process. And also your feedback is listened to, it's processed, and it's reflected upon. So I do want to say that our goal is to ensure the safety of every child, every staff member, and every visitor to the fine schools of Wall Township. And that's our priority. It's also important to us to see our schools filled with students and teachers and staff once again. That's a day I look forward to, and I'm certain we're all on the same page moving forward with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanrahan. And also, I'm sorry, we also pulled from the Board of Education report number 15, letters B and E. We also pulled those from the meeting. And with that, I mean, I just want to follow up and say a lot of good questions. I mean, every meeting we've had a ton of great questions and great, you know, points that maybe not everybody's thought about. As you know, Mr. Wondrak made reference to it. And I've said it at previous board meetings, it's like the Peanuts cartoon when Lucy moves the football right before you get to kick it. That's happening to school districts all across the state. And, you know, today we're working with one set of rules and tomorrow could be something else. But our staff has been putting in long hours and doing an incredible job. I know some people are concerned about school, the start of the school year getting pushed back, but it's all about safety. You know, nobody's going to go back into the schools unless they're 100% safe, because again, some of us have family, friends, children that go to school here. And you know, the other important thing too is that the administration doesn't live in a bubble. You know, even though they're working with teachers and you know, every level of our staff, they're also in our schools on a daily basis. You know, any given day, the superintendent could be in every school. Certainly, Dr. Gleason bounces around from school to school and classroom to classroom more times than I can count. So their safety is a very important concern, and they're making some of the really tough decisions and putting themselves out there. So certainly, they're not going to make a decision that puts their lives or health on the line, and they're certainly not going to do it for any of our students or staff. One thing I'd asked for at the previous meeting, and I believe we're still going to go forward with it once the individual school reports are up, that the principals hold little community meetings with their individual school communities to run through the plans and see if anybody has any questions. Because certainly if you're in Allenwood School, you might not necessarily care what's going on in West Belmar or Old Mill. You know, it's local to you. And this board is planning on having another meeting in early September. So possibly then we will have more information on different things, and maybe then we'll be able to even answer even more questions. And I'm sure between now and then, a lot more questions possibly will pop up, because that is the world we are living in right now. And with that,
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Gartz. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone who tuned in tonight, and everyone stay safe and have a good night.
Night.
Night.